All right, we're here today. Frankie's Pizza isn't just a pizza place. It's an institution that's been around for 70 years. Take it from me, I grew up eating this pizza. As I mentioned, went to high school down the street at Christopher Columbus High School. My grandparents lived down the street, and I am lucky enough to be today with the owners and the operators of this amazing family business. It's not just a family business, it's an institution to Westchester and to people like me who grew up eating it. Renee and Roxanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We really
So
appreciate it.
70 years ago, Valentine's Day means a lot to you, right?
Yeah.
Because 70 years ago, your parents started the business. How did they get into the business? Were they pizza people, or is this just an ambition that they wanted to be in the restaurant business? Take me back.
Well, my dad started his pizzeria in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he was in Pennsylvania for a little while, and
Monroeville.
yeah, and it was called Pasquarella's Pizza, right? It was called Pasquarella's Pizza, and then our parents came down for their honeymoon in 1954,
Wow.
and they decided to come back, so they loaded up whatever they could, and they moved down to Nowhereville because everybody told them that they were crazy, that there was nothing there except for alligators and mosquitoes.
Yep.
So, which was kind of probably true at the time. So,
Has it always been in Westchester, or where did you guys start the restaurant?
across the street from University of Miami,
Okay.
by the what was that?
Riviera.
Riviera Theater.
Theater.
Yep, I grew up right
and
by there.
Somebody bought the building. It was an Italian restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And I think they probably served pizza too, but they really went up really high on my dad's rent, which I remember. I don't know where it's at now, but I did see the contract agreement, and I was like, that wasn't a lot. He goes, that was a lot for the time,
Yeah.
you know. But he used to deliver to. They made him an honorary Sigma Chi dad because they used to be on lockdown at University of Miami, and they weren't allowed out of their rooms or dorms. And he used to deliver pizza to them through the window. So when he moved here, a lot of those, the Sigma Chi's would come. Dr. Resnick, I think, was one that they would still come and take the long drive to come and see.
To come and get Frank. What are your earliest memories of being out here in Westchester and the restaurant and mom and dad working here? What was that like back then?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, South Florida, back in the 60s and 70s it was nice. You as a kid, you could ride your bike and not have to worry about getting run over. Yeah. I mean, going back to when he first started in 1955 across from University of Miami, US 1 was a 2-lane highway back then. And another reason that he left was because they were, he had in 58, he started the location here in Westchester, 9118. He had both of them going. And then in 63 is when that one was let go because they were widening US 1 from 2 lanes, and they called it Homestead Highway back then, and to 4 lanes. And he was losing his parking. So that's why he, came over. He just focused on this one. And I can recall there was a time that we went, picking, and Homestead was like a family, outing back then. You didn't have a lot to do in South Florida. And it was like,
riding.
Horseback riding. There used to be pony rinks around here. There was a lot of agricultural around here, horses, cows, picking fields. All of Kendall was, you could pick green beans or tomatoes in Kendall, which is all full of houses and developments now. So, your parents would yell at you about falling in the wells because kids would always get, don't fall in the well, but I can remember a customer walking up to the car and saying to my dad, Frankie, I don't know why you would close the one location. He goes, that you're in the boonies, this was considered the boonies, and the store that we have was originally called Norman's Grocery. And one of the cousins of the owner eventually started Norman's on 87th Avenue.
No, wow. I grew up right behind Norman Brothers.
Yeah, Norman
so
Brothers.
There's like, and one of the relatives still comes in for pizza, like they live up north, but whenever they come down, we always see them. but it's, you know, that my
It was
dad
like
was
a little
able to.
grocery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Like
a
a
grocery
meat
store.
packaging grocery store. It pretty much looked the same. I think
Yeah.
I have a picture
So
on
this
my.
building was the original quote unquote Norman Brothers in a weird way.
No, it was a relative.
It was a relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess, what their
Yeah.
family did. You know
Wow.
what I mean? They were in the
Yeah.
grocery, you know.
So
business.
speaking of family, I mean, at what age did mom and dad get you involved with the business?
Day one.
Yeah.
Like you were
We're
little.
always, you know.
Because our mom, she worked in here when she was younger too,
Uh-huh.
and you know, I laugh because my dad, he was a Marine, and you could eat off the floors, like everything was so clean. And we had this stainless steel garbage can. Now it wasn't used for that kind of garbage, but it was always clean. And he would have, because it was strong, he would set trays on it. Well, he would put us in there. That was like our playpen.
Yeah.
So I guess we were like the first garbage pail kids. You know how
Yeah.
like they had
Yeah.
those dolls, because so we would stay away from the oven.
That was a playpen with
Yeah.
here. He gave you a pad and a pencil and said, "Here, take an order."
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I
So,
remember my
but,
first order.
You know, they
too.
didn't. They were down here on their own, and they were both, you know, working the business, and you know, you're starting to have children, and they didn't have like a support group of, you know,
Yeah, aunts, uncles.
yes, to
Family,
help,
yeah.
you know, with kids. So we were always underfoot, I would say, and getting in their hair,
Yeah.
his hair.
Now, when did you two take over operations of the business?
1980, when Dad had his massive stroke. Yes.
1980.
1980, Friday the 13th, he had a massive stroke in the pizza shop.
I was 17. She was 22.
So your dad has a massive stroke in the pizza shop. Walk me through the chain of events that all of a sudden you got to jump in and take over control. What was that like?
Well, it was scary. It was really scary, especially, you know, because, you know, during the course of time, you know, back, that was like 1980, Dad in the very beginning never allowed girls to work in the shop. Okay? Because it was always boys.
Yeah.
He didn't have to want to watch. And then like 76 is when he first allowed, I think, girls to start working there.
Because it's kind of a tough job. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
it-
like it's,
Yeah, it's a tough
Yeah,
job.
Because,
and it's
yeah,
a physical
it's a lot.
job, and it's very hot in there, and it's, you know, but it was mainly about, you know, boys would say things inappropriately or whatever, and just, you know, or cussing or things of that he was very strict about that. Like, you know, they could be one way, but when there's girls around, they always had to be on their best behavior. But, you know, he was, when he allowed that, then when Dad had his stroke, and my sister and I think she was up at Florida State, right?
No, I was 17.
You were
I was
17.
still here. I
Okay,
went to
so-
Miami-Dade for 2
All right,
years.
so he, you know, we were in there, and people were like, "Well, where's Frankie?" You know what I mean? Because he was in the hospital. He was like, oh, good Lord, like 3 months.
And my crew, because I was the boss, they were all my age, and most of them my friends. They would come in drunk or whatever, and I was like, "You guys, you can't do this. I have a responsibility now." Like, you know, I remember one day I was like, "If you're going to do this, then I have to fire you." I mean, it was heartbreaking
Yeah.
for me. And then they came back and apologized, because I was like, "I need your all support," because my dad's on his deathbed, and
Yeah.
we were open until 1 a.m, and I was working until 1 a.m. And it was a scary time, because now my dad wasn't there with me to close. You know, now, like, usually him and I were together.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
You had to grow up fast.
Yes,
Yeah,
pretty much.
very much, yeah.
Yeah.
Did Dad ever recover from it?
Not 100%, no. But they said he'd never walk and talk again, and he did. He didn't have the use of his right side, but he'd drag his leg and he would get around. He would make boxes with his one hand.
So he was still, after he got a little better, he came in and still worked?
It took about a year or two before he could come back here to
supervised, yeah.
just, you know, he'd come around and talk to people, but he physically couldn't work because his right side was paralyzed. One time, you know, he accidentally went up against the oven and he burned himself. He didn't even realize it because he couldn't feel it, you know. And it was, you know, he was a different person, but we knew that we had to keep Frankie's going to keep him going.
Correct.
And that was, you know, when he was, so we were like, be working, going to the hospital, you know. I mean, it was a tough time, you know.
But it made you who you are,
Yeah, it
and
did.
that resiliency is shown in the fact that you've been in business for 70 years. Right?
Yeah, well, that probably helped
That
you
helped.
know,
It helped a lot.
you
Without
have
that
to.
experience, who knows?
Sometimes you got to wake up in the morning and put your boxing gloves on because you just don't know what's going to be thrown at you, and you got to have inner strength to keep doing it. Because sometimes it's easy to just throw in the towel.
It's
you know?
easy to. So I tell people, we interview on the show lots of business owners, and I've been around, and I've been in business for 26 years. I also work with my brother, but one characteristic that all the good ones have. Okay, so some people are smarter, they're better at sales and marketing, whatever, right? It's a jigsaw puzzle. But all the people who stick it out and are successful, whatever, the one thing that I've always seen from guests on the show to people I know is tenacity. You have to have it. If you don't have it, you will not be successful. It's the one thing that traditionally I've always found in people, like, you will get knocked down and you're going to have bad days and you're going to have days that you want to pull your hair out and whatever. But you got to wake up the next day and get after it and just, adjust and adapt. But you have to be resilient. If you're not,
You're not
you
going
will
to
never make it.
No, we call it putting our big girl pants on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Put
absolutely.
your big girl pants on. If I went to the county, put your big girl pants on. Don't let the county upset you today.
I remember there was a time when it had to do with the food truck, trying to get the proper permits for the food truck.
Oh no, it was our certificate of use.
Right, but it was because of the food truck that somebody in the county, somebody that didn't know us, said, "Oh, you don't have a certificate of use for Frankie's. You're going to have to get closed down."
Well, no, it was a CO, our certificate of occupancy
Sure.
that you need to get your certificate of use. But I'm like, but we have a certificate of use, so we obviously had that certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you have to bring us the paper. And the paper that we were looking for was a little blue piece of paper that
In microfilm.
from 1955.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was.
She eventually found it. But after but first, the person said, my sister says, "Well, what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, we're going to shut you down." Yeah. And I go,
They wanted us to upgrade everything to now times. I said, but nothing's broken. Why would we want to do that?
This is the nonsense that frustrates business people with government.
Yeah.
And when they go, government, it's a giant DMV. I'm like, it actually is. I mean, we've had the same kind of issues with our business, which is like a silly thing. Like, you're going to shut us down for this? Like, we've been in business, we've been paying our taxes. Come on, Yeah. And it's just petty instead of having a bigger picture.
And what they basically said was, well, we'll prove it. And I said, well, I can prove up until Hurricane Andrew. I said, the county had lost a lot of records. There was a fire or something.
The computer. It was a computer.
Yeah.
Computer bug.
They lost a lot of records. I said, I don't have anything from the 50s to Hurricane Andrew because everything was lost during Hurricane Andrew in a warehouse. All the paperwork. I said, I can prove that we've been here since Hurricane Andrew went on. But I mean, obviously, because the guy was like, prove to me that you've been here since 1955, And I said, taxes. I go, I guess you could look on.
The thousands of people that we've fed.
The battle seemed like kind of silly.
Yeah.
And it all, I guess, boiled down to whether we needed to upgrade everything and still stay in business. And I was like, but that's going to cost, and at the time, to get a new exhaust and everything. I said, you're talking $250,000. How do we recoup from that, But we found what happened, and this is the crazy part about the story, is that back in the day, they used to use index cards. And that's where they had all the information. And the index cards were in the back. So when they got computers, they figured that all the businesses there were non-existent. So that information wasn't put into the computer. That's after going there for months, that's what ended up happening,
All right, let's talk about the business, Frankie's.
Okay.
You've kept that square slice of pizza. What's the history behind the square slice, and how come you've kept it all these years? And walk me through a little bit.
Okay,
about
so
that
part
history.
of the history that we have heard is when, I guess, the war or whatever, they didn't have all the pans, so they used like a black steel that was from up north, and they used the square pans. If you go to Pennsylvania, Ohio, there's a million square pizza
Detroit,
places.
it's kind of Detroit style.
Well,
quasi.
Detroit is thicker.
It's thicker, and the crust's a little different, right?
Just a little bit, but the concept is kind of the same. You know what I mean? But it's a northeastern thing, and it's very prevalent up there. So it like here, I had this one lady that wouldn't even try a slice because it wasn't round. And I was like, but I'll give you the pizza. She goes, no, I don't want to eat that. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you're not even going to try it? No, you know, so, but, and I guess some people, not that they compare it, but it's like, oh, well, square pizza was in school. You know what I mean? The school pizza.
The school pizza was always square. Yeah, right.
And I remember asking, I can imagine what Dad felt like. Dad, can I have another quarter so I can get 2 slices of school pizza? You know, like, and here I was right over here, and when he could have just brought me pizza, but he was like, here's your quarter, Renee. You know, like so. But
sisters, how do you operate the business? So I think I mentioned I work with my brother. Actually, my brother's name is Frankie, but I don't work with him. But how do you operate the business? Do you have clearly defined roles? What does that look like?
I think they're unspoken. They're unspoken roles. My sister is great with people. Like if somebody goes to complain, and I'm probably more like, the guy, the soup Nazi, like, you know how hard I worked on this pizza?
Yeah.
Like, really? So like some lady was yelling at her and I walked in and I just kind of looked and she's like, I got this, Renee. And I was like, she better watch. Like, I can mess with you all day long.
I got one of the square pants to hit you over the head.
Yeah. It's like, be respectful, but it's kind of unspoken. My mind works a little differently than hers, and we're both very customer oriented. So, but I'm more like product control because she'll tell you I was the cook, so I know the different things as far as what to look for. She knows how to do everything in there, but there's certain things that my dad would do that I try to make sure they stay the same. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, this isn't such and such. This is Frank. You see that name on that side? We're going to do it Frank's way.
We're going to do it Frank's way. That's how you preserve.
Exactly. Because he would say, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Now,
have like the toppings and everything stayed the same for 70 years?
No. Originally, he just had 5. It was pepperoni, onion, mushroom, sausage, salami, and anchovies.
Okay.
And it was called a Square Burger Deluxe. It had like a little bit of everything. So when I think people when he would see a lot of cheese going on the pizza, like extra cheese, he would just like cringe because it weighs down the crust. It doesn't make it as crispy or light and fluffy. But people are like, oh no, that's what I want, and make it extra crispy. And I'm like, okay, but it's got extra cheese on it. We're going to do our best.
He would certainly not understand the ham and pineapple thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and the hot honey. Like
I could trend.
I could imagine, but you know what? He was always like, even when we had gotten our food truck, I could see him actually loving that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I could see him like,
there's some change things that but some of the toppings we have, he'd probably be like, oh no,
Well, you guys have fantastic garlic bread, and a lot of people know you for the garlic bread. How did that come about, and when did you start developing the garlic bread?
You want the truth behind
Absolutely.
that? This is a good.
Don't worry. Nobody listens to this podcast.
So when I was a little girl, I used to ride my bicycle to Parenti's Pizza off of Miller Road. You probably are too young. No. They had a really good pizza,
and they go to another pizza place.
Oh, I love pizza.
All the time.
I can't pass
what
a pizza
Dad say
place.
about when you went to?
Oh no, he would go with me. We'd go to Cazzoli's. Oh no, like
Cazzoli's was great.
I love pizza, and I could live off of it, but so we would ride our bicycle and we would, get pizza and garlic rolls. And then 7-Eleven was right next door. So pizza and a Slurpee, like
the best.
we were in heaven. So in the 80s, we had like a little bit of a recession. We've had times where there's been a recession, and our profit margin isn't like other pizzerias. Like we have a crew that comes in at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
That, because we grind our own tomatoes, we cut and grind our own cheese. They pound out the dough by hand. It's very
labor.
Labor intensive.
Very, and it's a long process of creating the dough.
And
there's this 3-step rising process, a 3-step cooking process to our pizza.
It's a lot of work.
So there's it's very labor intensive, like where people just, have a dough, pound it out, put sauce on it, cook it. It's not like that.
Yeah, your slices, when you take a bite out of them, there's a lot of TLC in there, right? That it's been quality. It's not some manufactured, fast, I get my pizza in 30 minute kind of thing.
Right.
It's a quality slice.
Definitely not. And I went to Parenti's to get my fix of other pizza and garlic rolls, and they were going through a hard time too, you know, and so we kind of struck a deal. I said, look, I need to make more money at the register, but I don't have time to make garlic rolls.
Sure.
So we were helping, you know, each other.
Yeah.
So I bought it from them, and then we would sell them here, and it just worked out, you know, really good. Now they're done in-house. We have, you know, somebody that comes in and, you know,
You put
makes
a
them.
lot of garlic on yours, if I recall.
Yeah, and some people ask for extra garlic sometimes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the time we were just helping each other, you know, and it was in the 80s. It was during
That's
the
the
economic
entrepreneurial spirit,
you
right?
know,
And then all of a sudden it becomes a
downturn.
popular product.
And they stayed in business for a while, and then the guy, you know, who bought it out, you know, he's with us now, you know what I mean? He had his own pizzeria, and so, but it's like I said, we needed to uptick things
Yeah.
to make ends meet. That's kind of like with the U-Haul. We started the U-Haul because during 2007, 2008, I watched our sales drop 10, 20, 30 when it hit 40%. And New York Diner, one of my favorite places, also closed down. I was like, we're crazy to think that this can't happen to us. You know, everybody's fair game with this. And so one night when I couldn't sleep, it says, want to make extra money for your business? Yeah, sure. And then before you know it, I was going to U-Haul University online, you know what I mean? But it did help us with our property taxes because, like I said,
and
it's
kids young people that were going to college at the time that were concerned about car payments, phone payments, you know, college payments, weren't getting laid off. They were learning something else to do because, you know, at the time there was a lot of people, like Dade County was laying off people from the county, from Jackson, like all our big corporate places here were laying off. And so it's that trickle down effect. You have less people walking in the door, then you can't have as many people working. So we never during that time laid off anybody. They just learned how to do something else to keep moving.
Yeah, the food truck and that.
But that having, again, that resilience and tenacity that's why you've been in business for 70 years. You knew you had to pivot. You couldn't just sit on the sidelines. You made it work, and
It's called survival.
And it's called survival. But that's why you're here. And other
Sink or
places
swim.
aren't. Sink or swim. So this is the one location. You have an awesome brand in South Florida. Have you ever opened up another location, franchise, that kind of stuff?
No.
And how come? Just
I mean, we do ship. We ship all around the country.
On the website, I saw
Actually, you know, we're waiting for UPS right now as I speak. You know, but you know, we ship every Wednesday, like
And how big
customers.
a business is that for you? Did it turn out to be?
Oh, during COVID,
Yeah, it was probably great.
there was an uptick. There was an uptick. Yeah, that was one of our things that helped us during COVID, and that was a very scary time for every restaurant.
Yeah.
You know,
It was crazy.
we were lucky that we were able to stay open, but it was scary.
Westchester is a pretty interesting place for a lot of reasons, but you have some classics on the street. You have Arbetters, we have you guys,
Bird Bowl,
Bird Bowl,
Sergio's.
Graziano's. What do you think? What's in the water
Sergio's,
around
yeah.
here?
longevity.
The original Sergio's is here too?
Sergio's is
Sergio's,
right.
It is.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, so you got 4.
And Rio Cristal. Don't
And
forget.
Rio Cristal, you got 5.
El Rey de Fritas is
El Rey de Frida,
over by Bird
the
Bowl.
Hugo's place across the street. Is
Yep.
that the original or that one?
That's not the original.
That's the original. Where's
But
the one?
it's one of, I don't know the whole story, but the one that was on 102nd,
Yeah.
the original one there, that's them, you know, or one of the partners or something.
That's
So,
super cool.
I don't know if they're still affiliated.
If mom and dad could see the business today, what do you think they'd say?
Oh, I think I wish they were here to, because then we wouldn't have to be the bosses, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think you always try to live up to your parents' expectations, but you know, with mom and dad, they always made them high. Like, oh, you could never do anything right? It was never.
Oh, when
Every
I was
once
doing
in
the
a while.
anniversary, I could hear my mom, well, Renee, you know you're going to need more balloons than that, right? I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
You know, like I could, you know, because we worked as a family unit.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, 2 of our unit was gone.
Yeah.
So it was different. You know what I mean? It's like,
It was
and
hard.
so she says that it went in the order of the Christmas card Frank, Doreen, Roxanne, and Renee, so that she's the boss. And then I have to say, no, you're not the boss. But, you know, it's like, because we kind of looked at each other, it's like, oh my God, you know, our parents are gone, you know. And
do you have any other family members that work in the business?
her son.
Her son, he works here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. And how long's he been with the business?
Well, I mean, you know, he worked when he was high school.
Yeah, he had to go. Well, this was good. He had to go fly and work somewhere else.
I think it's a great idea.
You know, and then I thought it was perfect because when you work for a big corporation, he saw how that worked, and it was a great thing because I watch him. I try to step back and be like, okay, how would you solve this problem?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, let me see how they handle it. And of course, if I have to interject, then I'll say something. But he handles problems really well when it comes to the equipment. He learned that from his other job, and it makes me really proud. I was like, oh, wow, Christopher really, you know, he took care of that really good. It made me feel good, you know, because he'll be the only one. You know, we have each other.
Yeah.
And that's a big support.
Yeah, I think if it was just about making the product and serving the customers is one thing, but it's always, you know, every time you turn around, something's breaking.
100%.
You know, I can remember when we have 2 mixers, and when we went to get the second one, because nobody will rent a mixer when yours is getting fixed in South Florida. You would think that that would be, it's not like you can call and say, hey, I need to rent a mixer for a couple weeks. Doesn't happen here.
Hey, maybe we should start a business.
There you go.
That's the side business.
You know, like we need another business.
You have the land here.
You know,
but, you know, and everybody was like, oh, buy Chinese. It's, you know, your $8,000 Hobart is only $3,500 if you buy the Chinese version of it. And I said, can't. I said, my dad said, you live in America, you buy America.
There you go. I love
it. And, you know, I said, he'll roll over in his grave and I'll get a lightning strike down. I said, I can't do that. And, you know, we kept with Hobart.
What we've always had. We always had a Hobart. Like we
Yeah.
still have the original one that he used.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's little.
Small one.
Yeah.
That's awesome that those values and those lessons stayed with you all these years.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it always, you live in America, you buy America. And that was his, you know, his motto. And there was only one time that he stepped out of that, is when he bought her a Fiat. And because it was an Italian car.
Yeah, he wanted. I was going
after his stroke. Okay, it was after his stroke.
He was living vicariously. What happened is, like, he had that near-death experience.
Sure.
Like, I remember jeans were $15 at the time. I'll be like, Dad, I need a new pair of jeans. He'd hand me $5, and I'd be like, but they're $15. He goes, that's your problem. I know you can go find a pair of jeans for $5. If you want to work for it, you can go in the pizza shop and make money, you know. But so I needed a car, and they wanted me to have the car I had. They wanted me to have a safe car because I was going to be driving to Tallahassee, going back and forth. And he wanted me to get a Mustang. And I was like, but the new RX-7 was out. And I said, I know it's an expensive car, but I've been saving my money. My dad didn't realize how much money I had saved, but I was saving my money for a car.
Yeah.
And I said, so what you would pay for the Mustang? He goes, oh, no, that's not an American car. You can't. No, RX-7 is going to be in my driveway. No, no, no. So he kept taking me to the Mustang places. And I was coming to terms like, okay, you know, like it is what it is. I'm grateful that they want me to have something safe. And all of a sudden we're driving and we go into this parking lot, and I was like, where are we? And I was like, I didn't recognize any of the cars. And we go in there and we go in the showroom, and there was this little Fiat Spider. And I was like, what is it? He goes, it's a tie-in. And I said, I thought you said we can't have any foreign cars in the house. He goes, this is different. This is different. So that became kind of like his car because I always drove him. You know what I mean?
He liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the funny part of the story is he pays for the car. They said, look, come back tomorrow. We come back tomorrow because we have to get it out of the showroom. And I go, Dad, we got a problem. And he goes, what? I go, it's stick. I don't know how to drive stick. So he goes to the guys, he goes, hey, if I give you $20, will you teach her how to drive stick? And my mom's like, she's not going to go on US 1. Oh my God, we must have jumped, and that car ran hot, you know, the whole time. But he was always in that car with me. And I'll tell you what, this one night, you know, somebody got shot that owned a business. The people followed them home. And so my dad would be like, always watch, Renee. And at the time, we lived way out past 137.
Yeah.
And I was looking in the rearview mirror and I was watching the headlights and this car was coming up on us quick. Well, this car is really small. My dad's there. His good hand is this hand, right? He's like, Renee, and I said, Dad, I see it. He goes, don't go home. And I said, okay. Well, we were going in and out and he's going, turn here, turn here. I was like, Dad, you're making me nervous. You know, like, oh my God. And we were heading to the police station.
Yeah.
And the minute we got close to the police station, they stopped chasing us. They were chasing
Really?
us.
Wow.
Because at the time, back then, you took the money home, you know.
You had
and
the cash.
it was a very
story
naive
from
concept when you think about it now.
Yeah.
You know, but they knew what we were doing and they were there to rob us. But I'll tell you what, that little car got us out of that situation, you know.
go.
Yeah. But it was like, I was so nervous. I was like, don't conk out on me now, you know, like, but yeah. But you know, it was a scary time, you know.
70-year anniversary, you were featured in a book. Tell me about the book.
Well, the book has been around for a while.
I think on the 40th anniversary, Caesar had the book out.
Yeah.
And then
that's when he first started his story, his endeavors.
Caesar Becerra.
Yeah.
Then he reintroduced it for the 70th. And I don't know, you know, to where that way, because people had asked about it, but, you know, because once he sold out at the 40th, that was it for a while. And then he did it again for the 70th. So.
What's the future of Frankie's when we go to 80, 90?
I'm not sure. We're not going to be here.
We hope. Like I even said that. I was like, oh my God.
I hope I make the 80th. You got to put goals up. Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. You're going to make it.
But we're at that age where people that we know are passing away. Like
it's every time I talk, my sister will go, oh my gosh, so and so, and I'm like, it's like I don't even want to pick up the phone, you know, because I don't go on Facebook. I know a lot of people.
That's how we met.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't see that. But I'll be able to talk and hear when people come in that I haven't seen in a while. But you know, now with people ordering online, I don't get to see them as often because they'll order online and have someone, you know, either pick it up or they'll have it delivered through the online processes. But I was just, you know, I almost don't want to talk to her sometimes because we're at that age where friends that we've grown up with and people that we've known, you know, are not with us any longer. You know, I always say that Dad's up in heaven making them pizza now.
There you go. So, I like that.
And the way we were brought up, we know that your life can change from one day to the next.
Yeah. In a heartbeat. Definitely.
How often do you guys eat pizza?
Every day.
Every
day.
What's your go-to slice? What do you make?
I like the deluxe.
What's on the deluxe?
Pepperoni, onion, mushroom, sausage, and salami and anchovy.
So
that's
good.
the original Frankie's Deluxe. Yeah. And then mine is veggies. Mushroom, onion. No, not mushroom. Onion, green pepper, black olive, and garlic.
Who makes a better pizza?
Who?
Between you two.
Oh, she'll say her.
She'll say.
You know, I like mine real crispy. She doesn't like hers quite as crispy. You know, she's like my dad. She'll yell at me, don't cook that so long, you know? Yeah. Definitely.
All right, we're going to play some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay.
I think you just answered it, but I'll stop it. Pineapple on a pizza, yes or no?
I like pineapple.
Oh, yeah, I like it. But
Thank God that you said yes, because I am in the camp of the Hawaiian pizza.
You have to.
But also pineapple, green pepper, and onion is good.
Like that sounds really good.
No, but do you like anchovies?
So I'm not a huge anchovy guy.
Okay, but our anchovies are really good. They don't have a lot of it's mostly salty. It doesn't have a lot of bones and stuff. They're really good quality anchovies. But you have to try pepperoni, pineapple, and anchovies because it's salt, spicy, and sweet. It hits every one of your taste palates.
Oof.
Yeah, but you know what? If you go to the old school pizzeria, people the pineapple, they don't like it. You know.
What's your favorite restaurant not named Frankie's?
Oh.
Huh.
I don't know. I don't have a favorite. I like them all.
I like Flanagan's.
There you go. That's another Miami classic.
I love Flanagan's. I grew up with the one,
Sergio's.
Yeah.
Sergio's is the only phone number that I know. Like Sergio's and La Coretta, but I know Sergio's phone number by heart. The only phone numbers I know are my sister's, the pizza shop, and Sergio's. Those are it. And it just,
Oh, well, that's a given between Arbiter's, Sergio's. There's certain things that you have at least once every 2 weeks. That's just part of your diet. You'll crave it. Like I won't even be craving a hot dog, and then I'll stop at that light and I'll be like, I need to go eat a hot dog and French fries. Although I need David Arbiter to do French fries and gravy. That's a big Northeast thing.
Yeah, that's a Northeast.
His wife made gravy for me.
He watches the show, so this will get back to him.
So his wife made gravy for me, and they had it for me there one day, and I was like in heaven. And then I get a picture from him from lots of locks. He goes, "Look at this! They have French fries and gravy." So now I got to go there and get it. Yeah,
you have to go.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
You are Westchester royalty. One word to describe Bird Road.
Home.
Yeah, definitely home. Not like it used to be, but it's a highway now. It's not that, it's not that sleepy little town.
It's
but
not at all.
That's changed.
The crazy part about it is probably one of the most dangerous streets. We hand over, footage of accidents that we see. And it's one of the most comfortable streets to me because it's like, we grew up on 103rd and Bird Road, like right there on that corner house. That was, it was like, it was just like 2 minutes.
Do you still live in Westchester?
Yes.
Yeah.
I live right down the road.
Yeah.
So, but we're Bird Road brats.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm a Bird Road brat.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cuban coffee or café con leche?
Café con leche.
Café con leche.
Most underrated part of running a pizzeria?
Underrated.
I would think that a lot of people that have businesses might complain about their employees not showing up in time and stuff. I find the employees amazing.
You built a great team.
They keep us young, right?
Yeah.
Because we're with younger
kids, younger kids,
and they keep us young. I mean, sometimes sometimes I just want to send them to the moon, but I think that people would want to complain about their employees and stuff, and I could complain about them, but they're also they become our family.
Yeah,
absolutely. They are part of our extension of our family. I think you spend more time with your work family than you do your real family.
Yeah, sure.
And so it can be hot and tedious in there, but they make it fun. And they keep it lively.
Yeah.
And some people will understand it and some people won't. Or like the off the collar humor that they might have every once in a while that some of our employees, because they feel comfortable. That's their home just as much as it is ours.
The inside jokes, all that stuff, that's the company culture. That's why I always encourage definitely young people. If you got a job that you're on Zoom all day and you're working from home, get to the office and be around others and your boss.
Oh,
and
it's
stuff,
healthy.
Yeah, it's healthy.
It's healthy.
For everybody. Okay, you could serve one celebrity. One celebrity walks into Frankie's Pizza right now. Who do you pick?
I don't know. Who would you pick?
Morgan Freeman.
There you go. Morgan Freeman. That's a good one. That voice is great.
I know. He always has
he does have a great voice.
Yeah. That would be like cool.
That'd be cool. Maybe make some calls. Don't worry. He listens to the show.
I'm not sure. I don't really.
She already saw the guy she wanted to see.
Who did you see? Who is this person?
The Heat coach.
Yeah, the Heat coach came in one time.
Which one? Spolstra?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife loves Spolstra too.
He's just so handsome. I just think he's a handsome young man.
So do I. So that's okay.
Yeah, he's a lot taller than you.
Yeah, because
I was like, that guy's like really tall, right?
Yeah.
And I was walking through the back door,
and you're like,
and he walked in and he smiled. I was like it took me a second, and she was like, "Is it him?" Like she just got so starstruck. It was cute, but yeah, he usually gets his assistant. But the guys, that love basketball, I'm surprised they didn't burn a ton of pizza because I think they were just as much starstruck as she was.
As him, everybody loves him.
But yeah, it was funny.
70 years, what do you want Frankie's Pizza What do you want the legacy to be?
Quality, consistency, customer service, cleanliness. Those are the things that Dad, emphasized to us growing up.
Yeah.
And that we keep continuing with our journey.
Definitely a journey.
Yeah, you've carried that over through 70 years. I've been coming here for 30-something, almost 40 years. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for being in business for so many years.
Our pleasure. Thank you for
come here
having
and
us.
I feel like this is home. I can't wait for everybody to hear your story because it needs to be told. Congratulations again on 70 years. I wish you nothing but the best, and I wish you another 70 years in business. Now let's eat some pizza.
Okay. What would you like? You want pineapple?